I hereby declare the Kennewick County Board of Commissioners is now in session. Will you all please stand as we say the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag? I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you all here. For the record, it is August 2nd, 2022. And before we start the agenda, I just want to remind everybody, because I don't want to forget to say this today, that there's an important election next Tuesday. And the primary, and I encourage everybody who's listening to be sure you vote. And there's many good reasons to vote, but one of the important reasons is that we have locally several primary elections that are coming due. So please do your civic duty, and also when you vote, be sure to thank an election judge. They put in many hours in training. They get up at 5 in the morning to get ready to go down, and majority of them stay until 11 at night. And they're very committed to doing their civil duty and seeing that we have a good, fair, and secure election. At this point, I'd like to move on to our consent agenda. We have 2 items on there, the minutes from the last meeting, as well as the current audit warrants and claims. Are there any questions of the consent agenda?
I'll move the consent agenda.
A motion by Commissioner Nissen to approve the consent agenda. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Gardner. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passed unanimously. At this point, I'd like to call on Mr. Corey Smith, Director, and you have some final discussions for us.
I sure do.
Good morning, Corey.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Corey Smith, Director out at Glacial Lake Sanitary Sewer and Water District. Today I'm bringing forward the 4 lift station, 3 force main, and SCADA project, final completion and final payment. Just to recap, this started back in 2018 with SEH doing the project design. This project addressed our 4 original lift stations that were constructed in 1984 that pumped to the pond system out by Howick. In 2000, these flows were rerouted when the new wastewater treatment facility was constructed.
Do you want me to put the map up, Corey?
Sure.
It's coming up. I'll zoom in here. This way, when you're talking, we can kind of have a
Yeah.
visual, especially those on the audience. There you go.
Good.
So yeah, in 2000, the new wastewater treatment plant was constructed on the east side of Green Lake, which you can't see on the map here. But anyway, this project consisted of the New London, replacing the New London lift station. We abandoned the block plant lift station that's across from the country stop. We replaced this force main from New London all the way down to just north of Ness Lake. We replaced Green Lake Beach lift station and a section of force main pipe going up to North Shore Drive. And the last one was the Spicer lift station right next to the fire hall. Another part of this project, we also addressed our SCADA system, which is a communication between our water plant, wastewater plant, and all of our lift stations. It's kind of like SCADA is kind of like a cell phone. It's outdated after 2 years, and this was the original SCADA system. So like I said, the SEH was the engineer of this project, and Crow River Construction was the contractor. The original project contract with Crow River Construction was for $7,571,799. The final payment will be $115,226.61. With 4 or 5 change orders that we had in this project, it brought the total contract price down to $7,025,126.21. So about $500,000 below the original contract amount. So with that, it is staff's and the Glacial Lakes Commission's recommendation to accept the project and authorize final payment.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
A motion by Commissioner Imdak. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
A second by Commissioner Nissen. Any further comments or questions, discussion? Other than we like to hear when they come in $500,000 under.
Yeah.
It's terrific. And I remember when this first came about, time goes by so fast that it's doing this kind of maintenance is so important to stay on top of things ahead of things like this. And big project. Any other comments from anyone? If not, then I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously. Thank you very much, and congratulations on completing this big project. Now I'd like to call on Mr. Mark Boschin and Sarah Swedberg. And I believe you both have a broadband update for us.
We do.
Good morning, Mark.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. I have a broadband update. Sarah has some more broadband updates and handouts for you of what we're both presenting. I'll turn it over to her.
And just,
All right.
Mr. Chair, just so you know, this is a fluid process, and these two have been working their tails off, and along with Michelle, trying to get things up to date. And I got an email from Sarah about 12:15 this morning, so she's been working hard on this stuff. So as they give you information, it's continuing to change.
Awesome. Commissioner Sarah Swedberg, Business Development Manager for the Economic Development Commission. We are going to start out this morning talking about the Federated Border-to-Border Grant. Start by passing that out. Let's also pass that out while we're talking about Federated. So as a reminder, the Federated, what we're calling the Kandiyohi County West Fiber to the Premise project, is the project in Dovry, Mamre, Arctander, and St. John's townships that will serve 645 premises. So that includes residents, businesses, farms, and what the grant deems kind of community institutions are township halls. So the two items we've passed out first in front of you is a map. And the project we're talking about is generally that big star 8. Now, of course, this project includes St. John's Township, Dovry Township, Mamre Township, and Arctander Township. There's also 4 premises in Lake Andrew that are also being served because there's a road that crosses that township boundary line. This is the project that we're submitting a border-to-border grant for. The border-to-border grant that's currently open, the pot itself is $95 million that the state has to give out. Any one single application can apply for up to 50% of a project or $5 million, whichever is less. Our total project cost for this project is $9,827,011, and we are asking for that full 50%. As the points work out in the grant application, we don't gain extra points unless we drop below that 45% threshold, and we need every penny that the state can give us on this particular project. As we've been working on the grant narrative for this project, I think the thing that stands out to me, especially around that critical need question, is that we're able to fully serve these townships that we're working with for the most part. So Mamre, Arctander, and St. John's townships, those will be fully covered outside of their RDOF areas. And RDOF is that Rural Digital Opportunity Fund, where we've got some parts of the county, especially in the southern part, but also spread throughout the county, that are locked up with LTD and some other providers through a federal auction process. So we're able to fully serve 3 townships, serve the majority of what's left to serve in Dovry Township, and then again start to hit a few of those premises that are in Lake Andrew. And I think the positive thing there again is that we're not taking those 4 premises out of Lake Andrew or out of the project, so that we serve that whole road that crosses between Arctander and Lake Andrew Township.
You want to put this on the overhead
I'll do it when I do.
later? Okay.
Yeah. So you have already committed the ARPA dollars for the county's match, which is fantastic. We've got the matches from all 4 townships as well. We've got tons of letters of support. Happy to report that Representative Baker has also submitted a letter of support. We're working on a few others. I think that community involvement and the community support for this project will also really stand out with our application. The last thing that we need, and what the broadband committee yesterday approved or recommends, would be to write a letter of support for this project. I also have that, if anybody cares to have a copy of it. So what we're looking for this project, the last kind of little leg of the journey here, is to have the county commissioners formally approve Commissioner Berg to sign that letter of support.
Commissioners?
I would move that we instruct you to sign that letter.
Motion by Commissioner Nissen and the other.
I'll second.
And a second by Commissioner Anderson. Any questions or comments? Other than, Commissioner Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sarah, is it hyperbole to say that broadband really is the rural electrification issue of our day?
Yeah, I think that's accurate. Absolutely.
Because, I mean, there's so much need. We saw it during the pandemic, just shot all the holes. And I think any argument that broadband is not important to us. So thank you for your work on this. Mark, thank you as well.
Yeah. I will point out before your vote as well, this, in the letter of support, you'll notice that we identify this as the primary border-to-border support. So this is the project. We're going to talk about a few others that have come out of the woodworks for the border-to-border grant that others are looking at submitting. What we've been indicated by the state and by state staff is that in our letters of support from the county, we want to indicate what's our primary and what are our secondary projects. So this federated project is our primary project, and as indicated in that letter of support.
Commissioner Anderson?
Yeah, I just have one comment for people that might be listening is it's really important for people to send in letters of support, and hopefully they can contact Sarah here at the Economic Development Commission and just give them a letter. It doesn't have to be a long letter or anything, but what I found I'm still a new commissioner, and I've found that they, when you talk to other legislators and people higher up or whatever that deal with handing out these grant dollars, they don't necessarily believe the politicians that are elected locally. And when you give a letter of support, it really helps back us up and helps back up the EDC for this kind of a project. So.
Yeah, absolutely. The grant is due on Thursday, so if anybody's still out there listening that wants to submit a letter of support, if we can get that today, ideally, we could probably push it to tomorrow morning. I have a feeling it's not going to quite get sent tonight, but due Thursday, and has been a great way for people to get involved. Absolutely. There will be, the other item that I handed out to all of you is a public update opportunity. It's specifically just for those in this project area, but we'll hold that here at HHS in just a few weeks for those residents, business owners, farmers to come and just get an update on where are we at in the process now that we've submitted that grant, kind of what should they expect moving forward.
Any further questions?
Just, you want to repeat again when you want these letters? Today, if possible? Is that what you said?
Today, if possible, yes.
And deadline, drop dead?
Drop dead 9 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's a pretty short time. Two Dover Township folks here in the audience,
That'll help.
get your letter in.
There you go. Thank you, gentlemen. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor of the letters of support for the broadband, border-to-border grant, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously. So thank you, Sarah, for bringing this forward.
We'll switch spots now.
Okay.
I get to do the broadband update, and I will put this,
Okay,
is that
gotcha.
a good spot? Mark Beshen, Chair of the EDC's Broadband Committee. Try to get that.
I'll zoom out just a little bit.
My two documents are this map that I have in front of you, and also this item with the bar chart, which basically, if I don't have to read it all, that'd be great. But basically, I just wanted to give you an update on all the hard work this committee has been doing. we've had a lot of interest and a lot of opportunities to get broadband deployed in the county. I just want to go through some of the projects. The easiest way to see it on this map are the red stars. Those are projects that are completed or being completed as we speak. In that case, we've served 672 locations already this year. So at the end of this year, there'll be 672 more locations that have high-speed internet than did prior to this year. So I think that's a great accomplishment for us, not having to wait for border-to-border money from the state, anything like that. That was money either from county ARPA dollars, township funds, and providers themselves. I'll just hit on them really quick. Number one, we've got Arvig and Prindsburg, which will be done this year. Number two is a project with Charter that's done except for the boat access area, which they're waiting for some permits on. Number three, 199th Avenue, that's up in New London. They're under construction right now, doing work now. Number four, 30th Avenue with Charter. That one is complete. So those residents along 30th Avenue can request service today. Riverwood is not yet started yet. There's some work with Xcel Energy that they're still waiting on, but that will be done by the end of the year. Howick with Vibrant, up project number 6. That one is complete, and anybody in the city of Howick or unincorporated city of Howick can request service any day. And then project number 7, which is also with Vibrant along Long Lake, that one is also currently under construction. Some drops have been installed already to customers, but they're still working through that, along with some permitting with the Highway 23 realignment. So those are the projects that are already, that you've approved and moved and are in the ground. So those are very happy projects for us, and they'll be happy to get them crossed off the list. The next two we're calling final details. Number 8, that's the west border-to-border project with Federated that Sarah was just talking about. So I won't go too much into that. That's 645 locations if we get that grant. So that's a nice project that will really take care of the west, some of those townships on the west side of the county. The other one we're working on with final details is a project that came up just in the last week and a half, which is project number 9, which their media is calling the Lakes Project, MediaCom. Working with the final details with Lake Andrew, Colfax approved a portion of the project last night. And so if that goes through, we're looking at 967-ish locations. So that's a nice good project around that area. So final details are working on that, and we'll be bringing something to the board. My assumption will be in the next meeting or two for that. Moving on to the gray stars. These are the border-to-border letters of support. In the last week and a half, I've fielded calls from at least 4 different providers that are looking for a county letter of support for their border-to-border grant. This year, as Sarah said, there's more than $90 million for border-to-border, and that's almost triple of what it normally is. So there's a lot of money to be able to be spent. So there is a possibility that more than one project gets funded in a county. So our primary project, which is project number 8, the West Federated one that you just approved the letter of support, that's our primary project. Now with the conversations with these other providers, as long as they weren't going into somewhere that we already have a project, or they're going over a project that we're working on, it's been the position that we would recommend a letter of support from the county for these 2 projects, in the anticipation that if there happens to be more than enough money and the county would happen to get, not only that West project funded with border-to-border, but another project from a different provider, that we're all in favor of doing that. So the first project on here is project number 10, which is a charter project with the township of New London. And it would cover for the most part the rest of the township of New London that is underserved or unserved. along with a few properties in Irving, Burbank, and Lake Andrew Townships. And this would serve 347 locations. The estimated cost of the project is about $3.1 million, and they haven't got the final cost as far as what they're going to ask for border to border. With border to border, you can ask up to 50% of the project. Again, they're not asking for any money. They're just asking for a letter of support that the county would support this project with a letter for their border to border grant application. The Broadband Committee recommends that you do so.
Commissioners, kind of sounds like another no-brainer, but do I have a motion to submit letters of support for this broadband possibility?
I'll make that motion, but I do have a question.
Sure. Commissioner Emdek made the motion,
I'll second.
a second by Commissioner Gardner. Comments, questions? Commissioner Emdek.
Yeah, actually, a couple questions, and I'll pivot between the two. First on the the New London Township proposal. I could be wrong on this, but I thought I had heard once that charter said New London would be completely covered once this was done.
This particular project, we have worked with Charter in New London Township prior to any of this occurring. Let me put that up there. With the goal of serving New London Township. We've had conversations with New London Township Board about how to fund that, and we're waiting on basically to figure out how they're going to fund the portion that they would have to do. What Charter saw was an opportunity to apply for a border-to-border grant to get this served without any township contribution. In my limited GIS looking, I believe it would serve the majority of the township. It may miss something on the southwest side of the township, but I'm not guaranteeing anything. This is a project they submitted. They're asking for a letter of support. They, of course, can submit this to border without a letter of support. They're just asking for that.
Sure. It just seems like if they're going to apply for a grant and there's limited areas not covered, why not, paint the whole wall?
Yeah, that was just me viewing what I believe is the accurate GIS data, that there may be a little section, but I don't know 100%. So I can't say, I'm not going to stand up here and say every single person in New London Township would be served by this. I am not 100%.
And I'm not sure where I got that from. It might have been from New London Township asking that question and getting that answer.
And that was probably from the project we kind of discussed earlier. So we had this project of, can we do this with county and township dollars, which, of course, when we're talking about a township dollars, we want to serve the entire township. And this is, in a sense, completely separate in that Charter said, okay, well, we're going to look for this project and do a border-to-border. We're not in any position to make changes to their project, just simply a letter of support.
Okay, thank you. Then the other one, I'm going to pivot over to Harrison Township and the Atwater area, those number 11s that Frontier is proposing. Does that overlap with the area of the Rural Reconnect grant that Vibrant would be applying for or is applying for?
Yeah, okay, so this is the second, I haven't gotten to this one yet, as there's 2 letters of support, but if you want me to go over that one, I will.
Okay.
This is Project 11 that's on your map, and this is Frontier. These are all fiber to the premise projects, I should clarify that. And they're looking at basically a section from Blumkest to Savea and Lake Lillian, the southwest side of Atwater, just north of Atwater, and the south side of Diamond Lake. The only thing these do come in contact with are the Reconnect grant. However, we have been doing projects within the Reconnect grant, including the Howick and Long Lake project with Vibrant, regardless of the Reconnect grant. So I think it's just something that we have to work through if we were to get if Vibrant was to get the Reconnect grant, but I don't see any reason not to move forward with a letter of support.
So a follow-up question, thanks, Mark. And I understand that we're working within the Vibrant area, but those are areas that Vibrant is not including in their Reconnect grant because the population is a little denser, thus bringing the scoring down on the Reconnect grant.
It could be, not in the Surveyor Blomkist area. That one definitely is not in the grant. Also, the Lake Lillian area is not in the grant. Those two I know for sure aren't in Reconnect. The rest of it, I am not 100% sure, because what you end up with the Reconnect grant is there's portions where they call funded service areas and non-funded service areas. So there's portions that Vibrant would get money from the government to go, but then there's portions they would go anyway with their own money to get to those other places. So it's hard to tell. I can't tell you 100% if they are in that area or not. My assumption on Diamond Lake would be that Diamond Lake is not in that. That would be my guess. Just due to the density.
Because of the density of
Yeah,
homes.
yeah.
And the one to the eastern edge of Harrison Township, there looks like a small lake there too, and I'm not really, maybe Commissioner Anderson has more knowledge about whether or not there's the density. I'm a little concerned that, I don't think a letter of support's gonna hurt any, but when we take away the dense areas, we take away the opportunity for spreading the cost for to get to these other areas, and that's a concern of mine, because I'm afraid if those dense areas are not available, then nobody's gonna want to go to those areas, less populated areas, if we're not successful with the
Reconnect.
reconnect.
Good
Yeah.
question. Any other questions or comments?
Well, in line with
Commissioner
what Roger just said, I'm a little bit concerned that we're going to, we could hurt our major project by sending a letter of support for 3 different, and lose the one we really want. I know we want to get everybody served eventually, and that's what Roger was speaking to as well. And when you get the cherry picking thing going, it makes it difficult. So I'll vote for a letter of support. I'm having a tough time with sending 3 because it could jeopardize the one that we've been working on for how many? Almost as long as I've been on the board here.
I had a conversation with the state about that specific issue.
Okay.
They indicated that our primary project should be indicated in the initial letter of support, and then the other letters of support could follow. So in my interpretation is that it's not going to hurt to send 3 letters of support as long as you indicate your primary project, because that is the same concern we had. We've been working on with Federated with that West project for 3-4 years now, and we certainly want that to be our number 1 project. So that was a concern. I believe it was addressed with the state, and that's what they recommended, was indicating your primary project.
Well, that makes me feel better.
Yeah, that emphasis, thank you, Mr. Chair, that emphasis on the federated one being the primary one,
Correct.
is what allows me to support the secondary ones as well.
And it could be two, you can choose to vote on either of those. So that's why I just want to make sure that right now your motion is for the New London Charter project when you're voting, so.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote then. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously.
You do the Frontier.
Yep. The next one would be the number 11 project, the
Yes.
Southeast Side Frontier project. Same scenario, which I think we've answered those questions.
Need another motion for the Frontier letter of support?
I'll make that motion.
Commissioner Anderson made the motion. The chair will second that. Any further comments or discussion at this point? Commissioner Anderson.
Yeah, so Frontier, they went through bankruptcy recently. Is that affecting any of this here process or not?
Not to my knowledge. Once they are, their requirement is with the state if they get the border-to-border grant. So they are beholden to the state to complete their projects, and if they don't, there's consequences. Usually, they're not allowed to get border-to-border grants moving forward to a certain point. So the only potential risk would be reputational damage, I guess, maybe, of supporting a company that some people don't look favorable upon. But you could have, I think companies in certain areas are not looked favorable upon no matter what company it is. And I think if they can follow through on their obligations with the state and the state awards it and they do their due diligence with the border-to-border stuff, I don't see any issue with giving them money to upgrade their system and these customers.
Okay.
So.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously. Commissioner Emdek.
Mr. Chair, before we excuse Sarah and Mark, can you give us an update on the LTD RDOF situation? And maybe a little background as to what that is, because
Sure.
everybody.
So RDOF is the Rural Digital Opportunity Fund. It was put out by the FCC and did a reverse auction in areas that would be very low density throughout the United States. In Minnesota, the major winner of that was LTD. I'm going to call them LTD Wireless. They provide wireless service in Candioi County, and they were the only ones who won in Candioi County. Other companies, Federated had a few, other companies had it throughout the state, but LTD won the majority, and the majority in the U.S., $1.3 billion. There's been concern from trade groups, media, others, whether they can complete this with their scale or even at the cost that they bid. So the Public Utilities Commission authorized what they call an ETC for them last year, basically allowing them to operate in the state. They have to have that designation to get federal funds. Recently, the Cable Telecommunications Group and I want to say it's the co-op, the electric co-op group, filed a petition with the state, it's the state of Minnesota, to revoke that license. They've heard, there's been a hearing on it, but I don't think there's been any decision on that yet. There also has not been any decision from the federal government on whether they've been, their final application has been approved. So it's a little bit in the quasi land. So you have the state that can deny it, and you have the federal government that can deny it. And so both of them are kind of just sitting there. South Dakota denied their ETC, so per the rules, they have to have that to get the RDOF money. We don't know what happens now. If that was the case, it's likely the money would go back into a pot and then redistributed at the next, whatever RDOF 2 looks like. So we don't really know what that is going to entail. Either way, it's hard for this county because it's certainly a good portion. The RDOF areas are a good portion of the southern part of the county, which is the least dense areas. And we're kind of in limbo right now on whether you touch those or not. The state has kind of flip-flopped on whether they'll allow those or not. And at the same time, it's federal money that could be flowing, for projects in Candioi County. That would be really nice to have. So that's kind of the update on that.
Mr.
Commissioner
Chair.
Emdek, please proceed.
Yeah, so the long and the short of it is these RDOF is holding counties and other providers hostage from applying for border-to-border grants in the areas in which they've put a mark on the map.
So
Meaning we cannot apply for a border-to-border grant that covers that section or 3 sections or whatever, township.
the state guidance has changed extremely recently on that, that their stance has been now, as long as they haven't been awarded that, you can actually apply for it in the border-to-border. So as long as the FCC has not given LTD the green light, you can apply for a border-to-border project in the RDOF areas. Now that just recently changed, and due to where we were with the project on the west side and the dollar amount. With the state border to border grant, you're only allowed up to a $5 million cap for the match. So we needed that project to be 10 million or less to keep that. So we weren't able to add any of the RDOF areas into our border to border grant application for this year. But right now, it's not really precluding you from doing that. In the past, that's been our view, is we don't want to go there. And at the same time, you don't want to double dip and spend state money on a project that the federal government's going to spend at the same time. So
Well, thank you for that. That's a relief. However, these RDOF dollars is a huge amount of dollars that is being tied up and kept other providers and other states from accessing until it is. And I was at the National Association of Counties meeting 2 weeks ago in Colorado, and it's talked about out there. There's a company that has no experience at putting fiber in the ground other than to their fixed base towers. And yet they have support of legislators around the state of Minnesota, as opposed to the fiber that broadband fiber that we're trying to get put in. So it's a concern of mine and concern of people all over the Midwest, actually. And so if you're talking to your legislators, make sure that they understand that this is important, that it be opened up for other providers.
I think the biggest thing for us is to have a decision one way or another would be very helpful when we're trying to plan. Right now, we kind of plan that that's going to happen in the southern part of the county, but the longer it drags on, you just don't know what the situation is. So.
Thank you.
One quick question to kind of change the subject a little bit. Any feedback from some of the providers of fiber and stuff concerning the supply chain? Are they able to is that holding us back at all?
Yeah, one of our providers has indicated it's a 13-month lead time on fiber right now. So with most of these projects, the agreements that you have entered into with some of these other providers and the state border to border, there's basically a 2-year window they give you to finish it. That is completely dependent on supply chain. So part of what our committee has tried to do is move these projects quickly so that we get to the front of the line. And that is going to be, especially once border to border makes their decisions, you're going to have $90 million worth of, well, probably double that, $180 million worth of projects and everybody wanting fiber. And that's a change we've seen this year is all of these companies are proposing fiber to the premise, not coax or a DSL or some other technology. They're all fiber, whether they're a cable company or a telephone company or any of those. So supply is going to get tight. And so the quicker we move, I think the better we are off in this county. So.
Any other questions or comments from anybody? I just want to say thank you. This is kind of conversation we've been hearing for several years about broadband, the board making it a priority. And been struggles, but we're certainly gaining traction and making some really great progress at this point, and looks like we're going to continue to go in that direction. Just want to thank you and the Broadband Committee and our commissioners, Commissioner Nissen and Commissioner Emdek, and our administrator, Mr. Kleindahl. You all are rock stars of our broadband, and this is one thing that since I've been on the board, that's been a priority, and the board has been, and these individuals have worked hard moving us forward, including yourself and the rest of the committee. So thank you so much, and this is exciting to see this move forward and gain traction.
Yeah, thank you very much, and appreciate the commission board's support of broadband, because it's a very much needed. And the item on your last sheet with the bar chart is just the last thing, as you touched on, of where we are. So, in 2021, there was 36% of locations in the county that weren't served. And so that's the piece we're trying to hit. So in golden terms, if we got everything and everything was funded, and at the end of all of this with Reconnect, these other projects, we put that down to 13%. So that's a pretty good chunk if everything goes right and everything goes our way. But we're chipping away at it. So
it's so important in so many different levels, not only for education, for businesses, for tourism. It's needed. Great. Well, no more questions. I want to say thank you very much, and a very good update.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Pardon?
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, at this point, I'd like to call on Kenui County Veteran Service Officer Trish Appledorn. Good morning.
Morning, Trish.
I'd like to propose that the county pass a resolution 2022-42 so we could receive our $10,000 operational grant from the state of Minnesota Department of Veterans Affairs. This money is used for advertising, for the county fair, for various events that we host for veterans throughout the year.
I'd move on Resolution 2022-42.
Commissioner, motion by Commissioner Gardner and a second by.
I'll second that.
By Commissioner Anderson. Any further questions or comments? So, Trish. Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously. Thank you very much for bringing that forward.
Your signatures, and I'll get it later.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Next, I'd call on Kenui County Public Works Director, Mr. Mel Odens. Good morning, Mel.
Chair, members of the board. Larry, do you want to throw this up on the board?
I
I
sure
should
can.
talk to you earlier about this.
Want me to zoom out?
Actually, this will work
Okay,
right there.
right there?
So what I've got before you is a consideration of a limited use permit with the state of Minnesota, Minnesota Department of Transportation. It's part of the Highway 23 filling the gap project between New London and Paynesville. The state has recommended that they do an underpass in the Long Lake area, which is right, there's a road that kind of comes around on the middle of Long Lake. It would connect this road to an underpass that would connect it to the Glacial Lakes Trail. Now, just for perspective of where we are, the current trailhead, if you will, or park and ride, or the multiple use, they're going to move that westerly about half a mile to, there's a little stub road that goes off. It's called the Cemetery Road. They're moving that to here, and then they're going to put a trail underneath Highway 23 in this area here, which is about another mile west of there. But as it goes, the DNR and the state of Minnesota don't do trails. So they want the local next unit of government down, which would be the county, to operate and maintain the trail. So they're going to own and put in the box, the underpass, but they want us to do a limited use permit to maintain the trail. So it's about a 300-foot long trail that's connect the Long Lake Road to the Glacial Lakes Trail. So we always support bike and ped in this county. I think it's a great location for an underpass. It fits very well with the topography. The concern that we have right now is they used a standard limited use permit. So the documents that you have, we can sign the signature page and we can sign the resolution, but the exhibit is incorrect and the wording in the limited use permit is incorrect. We've been working with them for a while, but I want to get it. We're good with everything, provided they update the exhibit and update the wording. So it's my recommendation to approve, to pass resolution 22-43 and authorize the administrator and chair to sign on behalf of the county. But I just want you to understand that we would not send anything in until we get the proper revised documents. If you're good with that, I'm good with this.
So move, Mr. Chair.
Motion by Commissioner Endek to approve resolution number 2022-43 and a second by Commissioner Nissen. Any further questions? Commissioner
Yes,
Endek.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Mr. Odens, can you zoom that out just a little bit? I'm trying to orient myself where that trail actually is. So it's between the boat landing on the east by the Wagon Wheel Campground, is that correct?
It would be
And the one
east
on
of
the
there.
west?
It would be east of there. And I might have another, I don't actually, no, I don't have. This is as far out as I go, but There's our County Road
Where's
135 that goes north. Trying to think. So the ponds, if you're familiar, are going to be like east of here or west of here a mile. So it's going to be about a mile east of the main, where like the,
Public access from
Yeah.
the west side.
Yep.
Mile east of that.
Yep.
Is that on that gravel road that kind of wanders through Foster Hudson's property and?
the road here, this road here, or
Yeah, so how does it connect to the North Shore of Long Lake? Do we have to build some trail?
no. They're gonna connect it. There's a road that goes to a cul-de-sac right here.
Okay,
And then they're gonna connect that over, and I do have that map right here. They're gonna connect this trail over to the road. And then they're also gonna connect it to, I believe it's the Wagon Wheel Campground right there, right here.
all right.
So it's
So
gonna
we don't have
connect-
to build any trail, we're just maintaining what they're going to construct.
Right, and actually, that's the clarification in the standard limited use permit. They've got item number 3, this paragraph, this paragraph, this paragraph, and this paragraph indicate that we're gonna build it. We're not doing any of the above. They're building it with the GAP project.
Yep. I think this is a great project, because there's a lot of homes
Yes.
along the north shore of Long Lake.
So, once again, in the spirit of how we're doing our trail plan in the county is, these people that live here could literally go through the trail, and you can get on the trail and you can go to New London or whatever, and then you could also cross later on as you get toward County Road 31. So it does provide a good opportunity for people in the area to use, number one, the Glacial Lakes Trail, and vice versa. You can have people on the Glacial Lakes Trail loop down through here. So I think it's a good crossing. I would recommend it. It's just that the glitch of it is that we have to maintain this remote trail out in the middle of the country somewhere for 300 feet. But that's how it goes.
So
Please proceed.
I know we can move on, but it's kind
We
of
got
curious
time.
that, okay, so let's say they're seal coating the trail coming from New London, and then they want to go, so that section of 300 feet, that'd be our cost to seal coat.
Yep.
But we'd do it together.
We could, yes, we would probably do it independent of them, but,
Okay.
I mean, yeah, that's a little bit of a, all county engineers always, like, it just seems kind of crazy that we have these state trails, we have state roads.
So are we given authority to cut the brush along there too then?
Yeah, we are, and put up a sign, but we can put up a sign provided we get a permit. So, but it's how you work together too, I guess, so.
Yep.
Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mel, it maybe should go without saying, but I know some people tend to doubt the need for trails like this in the first place, but I think the pandemic showed us that they're vital for people to be able to get out and do something. And there's a lot of tourism that comes this way just from having these trails. So I would fully support this.
Okay. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote for resolution number 2022-43. And I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passed unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Oden, for bringing that forward to us. Okay, thank you. At this point, we ended the agenda, and now it's time for administrator updates. Mr. Kleindahl?
Mr. Chair, I just want to remind the board that we have a work session on August 15th to discuss the budget. It starts at 1 o'clock. It's in this boardroom. You'll have selected department heads here to dazzle you with their information and the projects that are taking place. I know Mel's been sharpening up his pencil and working on his presentation along with others. And then the thought is that information that you have, it allows you to help make a decision about the budget and the dollars and the process. So just want to make sure that's on your calendar. I'll be meeting with the chair and vice chair tomorrow to have the initial look at it. I think I had told the chair that I'm pretty close on the budget, and yesterday at 3:30, I got a call from one of the department heads, and there was a major, I don't know, operation that could cost some money next year, and so all of a sudden, I'm relooking at the budget and trying to get some more information from that department head and to kind of see where to go. But the thing about budgets, and you guys know this, is it's not just the budget you're doing that year. It's the budgets that are going to take place the next several years, and that's what we do. We do long-term planning. So it'll be all right. It just always, when you put things on paper, then it kind of locks it in, and when there's adjustment, then you have to try to say why there was an adjustment. And so I'll do the best I can by our meeting tomorrow to have that ready. Otherwise,
I'd just like to add, we, Commissioner Emdek and myself have talked to you about the budget, but never in the detail that you're going to go into, so I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to that.
the verbal beating is getting less.
Yes, okay.
Mr. Chair, before we're about to go into work session, and I know we have our reports too, but can we take a quick break now and then do our reports?
And then let's go,
Yep.
that sounds
Go right
fine.
into our
You
work
bet.
session.
We'll take a break at this point, and I hereby call the Candioi County Board of Commissioners back in session. At this point, we are going to look at appointments and calendars. Commissioners?
Mr. Chair, could we resume the conversation about, on the calendar thing? Because a couple of things that I forgot
Yes.
to mention. We have, so at our next board meeting in September, no, what are we at?
August 16th.
The first board meeting in September, which I guess is the interviews, or not the interviews, we're going to be presented with Liza Donabauer. But we've got the county fair coming up this week on the calendar, or next week on the calendar thing. And there's some things we need to prepare for going forward. And one of them is the Transportation Alliance fly-in in Washington DC. And I really believe we should be represented there, as we have in the past, to make sure that by that time, I think we will have some opportunities to advocate on behalf of some grants that we'd be applying for. So I just putting it out there. I think Mr. Oden should go, one of the elected officials to go, and I would encourage Larry to go as well.
I think this would be a very good idea for Mr. Kleindahl to attend, but also Commissioner Emdek, this is in kind of one of your projects and your involvement with AMC as well, and district person. I think you would be a good candidate. I don't know if anybody else is interested in doing it.
I would be.
You would be too?
I've been there a couple times before.
Can we send two?
I have to clear it at home first, just so you know.
Well, if possible. We're just talking really kind of general at this
Yeah,
point.
I mean,
just to feel
stick
it-
to mark on your calendar, it's not that far away.
What date was it?
September
20 through
20th through the 22nd or 3rd, depending upon when you fly
And
home.
I think your first round of interviews will be that week before that, right?
Yeah.
Well, I can't ask my wife today because it's our anniversary.
Oh, you're here.
I could get into trouble for today. But,
All right, thanks for
But-
that indulgence, I appreciate that.
Any other calendar situations anybody wants to talk about or share?
The fair, you understand, my understanding, Mr. Chair, is that the county board as a whole will be at the fair this year.
Yes,
Yeah.
and maybe I'd like to expound on that a little bit more, that we have part of it paid for. At this point, Commissioner Nissen and myself, originally, we were going to have a fair booth, so we put money down, and so we have a down payment already, but we're short $75. So if we're going to do it as a group, we need $25 each from each commissioner or from the county. It-
There's nothing like putting us on the spot.
Right, well, you brought it up.
I'll pitch in the 25 on mine part.
Mr. Kleindahl.
Because you're doing it as a board, as a whole, and not as elected, or going to try to
Okay.
promote yourself. If you're not promoting yourself, then you could do it as a
As a
county
board,
event.
but-
So I'm just putting that out there.
And I just want to clarify, you probably already, there will be no business discussed here. This is for interaction with constituents, and we won't have more than 2 commissioners in the tent at one time anyway.
Thank you.
Yes, yes.
I would just like to take, forever, but last year in my booth, Mel had provided me with a